Having a sibling isn't always a smooth journey. It can involve conflicts, disagreements, and struggles for dominance. Sibling rivalries are often driven by differences in personality, interests, or parental favoritism. In many cases, these struggles can lead to tension and hurt feelings, but sometimes they can also foster growth, resilience, and even a stronger bond over time. The relationship between Esau and Jacob in the Bible, however, is a prime example of how sibling rivalry can be marked by deceit, betrayal, and deep-seated tension. The story of Esau and Jacob, which begins in Genesis 25, reveals a complex web of manipulation, deception, and parental favoritism. Jacob, the younger of the two brothers, pressures Esau into selling him his birthright in exchange for a meal of food. This seemingly small act sets the stage for a lifetime of rivalry between the brothers. What follows is a series of events that ultimately lead to a broken family and a tragic fallout. The brothers' differences. From the very beginning, it's clear that Esau and Jacob are very different people. Esau was an outdoorsman, someone who loved to hunt and roam the wilderness. He was rugged, adventurous, and outgoing, but at times, his decisions seemed impulsive and unthinking. Jacob, on the other hand, was more reserved. He preferred to stay home, dwelling in the tents with his mother, Rebekah. Jacob was introspective and clever, often using his mind to get what he wanted rather than relying on physical strength. Their differences weren't limited to just their interests. Their parents, Isaac and Rebekah, also had clear preferences for their children. Isaac, for reasons unknown, favored Esau, while Rebekah showed a deep affection for Jacob. This favoritism caused tension between the parents and set the stage for the rivalry between their sons. It also sowed division within the family, creating an environment where deception and manipulation could thrive. Esau's marriages, a sign of his character. Esau's choice of wives also added to the family tension. In Genesis 26, we learn that Esau married two Hittite women, Judith and Basemath, despite his parents' disapproval. Isaac and Rebekah were displeased by this decision because they didn't want their sons to marry women from the Canaanite people. Esau's choice to ignore his parents' wishes reflects his impulsive nature and disregard for the broader consequences of his actions. While Jacob's relationships aren't mentioned at this point, the lack of such distractions hints at the quieter, more solitary life he led. Isaac's aging and the blessing of Esau. As Isaac grew older and his sight weakened, he realized that his time on earth was limited. It was a time to settle his affairs and pass on his blessings to his heirs. In Genesis 27, Isaac calls for Esau, his favorite son, and asks him to prepare a meal of wild game, which Isaac particularly cherished. After the meal, Isaac plans to bless Esau, bestowing upon him his inheritance and leadership of the family. This moment shows Isaac's deep affection for Esau, despite the latter's previous disobedience and disregard for his birthright. Isaac, blinded both physically and metaphorically, clung to the idea that Esau, as the firstborn, deserved the blessing, despite God's earlier promise that the younger son would rule over the older. Rebekah's deception, a mother's manipulation. While Isaac and Esau prepared for this important moment, Rebekah overheard their conversation. Whether by chance or design, she listened in on their discussion as Isaac gave Esau instructions to hunt and prepare the meal. This moment of eavesdropping reveals a breakdown in communication within the family. Instead of open and honest dialogue, the parents resort to secretive schemes. Rebekah, knowing that God had promised her that the older son would serve the younger, decided to take matters into her own hands. She devised a plan to deceive Isaac into giving the blessing to Jacob instead of Esau. Rebekah's actions mirror those of Sarah, Abraham's wife, who also tried to manipulate events in her favor when she failed to trust in God's timing. Rebekah encouraged Jacob to impersonate Esau by preparing a meal similar to what Isaac liked and disguising Jacob with goatskin to mimic Esau's rough, hairy hands. Her plan was rooted in a deep desire to see Jacob receive the blessing she believed was rightfully his. Jacob's reluctance, a cowardly conspiracy. Jacob, however, was hesitant to go along with his mother's elaborate plan. He feared that he would be caught in the deception, but his concerns weren't about the morality of the situation. Instead, Jacob was afraid that if Isaac touched him, he would realize the truth. This reveals Jacob's lack of confidence in his own ability to deceive his father. Despite his reluctance, he eventually goes along with the scheme, reassured by his mother's promise to take full responsibility for any consequences that arise. Jacob's hesitation reveals that, while he was willing to participate in the deception, he wasn't fully committed to the deceitful nature of the act. The deception unfolds. Isaac's doubts. Jacob, having been reassured by his mother, proceeds with the plan. He prepares the meal, dresses in Esau's clothes, and covers his hands and neck with goatskin to replicate Esau's hairiness. Jacob enters Isaac's tent, posing as his brother. Isaac, though frail and blind, remains suspicious. He asks Jacob how he was able to find the game so quickly, to which Jacob lies, attributing it to God's blessing. Isaac, still uncertain, asks Jacob to come closer so that he can touch him. When Isaac feels Jacob's hands, he is convinced that this is Esau, as they are rough and hairy. But Isaac's doubts linger. He asks Jacob again if he is truly Esau, but Jacob continues to lie, insisting that he is. Finally, Isaac, still unsure, asks Jacob to kiss him. When he does, Isaac smells his clothes and is convinced that it is Esau standing before him. Isaac then proceeds to bless Jacob, unknowingly bestowing upon him the inheritance and power meant for Esau, the blessing. Isaac's blessing to Jacob is rich and full of promises. He blesses Jacob with the dew of heaven, abundance on the earth, and dominion over nations. Jacob is promised wealth, authority, and protection, essentially becoming the head of the family and the recipient of God's covenant promises. Despite his doubts, Isaac's blessing cannot be undone. Once the blessing is given, it is irrevocable. As soon as Jacob leaves Isaac's tent, Esau returns with the food he has prepared. He expects to receive the blessing, but when he presents it to Isaac, he is met with shock and distress. Isaac trembles violently, realizing that he has been deceived. Esau, devastated, pleads for a blessing of his own, but Isaac can only offer him a secondary blessing, one that promises a life of struggle and hardship. The aftermath, a broken family. The story of Esau and Jacob is a powerful tale of sibling rivalry, deceit, and betrayal. Jacob's actions, guided by his mother's manipulation, result in a fractured family. The bond between the brothers is irreparably damaged, and the relationship between Isaac and Rebekah suffers as well.
If you found this video enjoyable, please consider liking and sharing it. Additionally, subscribing to this channel will ensure that you receive more updates in the future. Thank you.